right, well, again, good morning, everyone, and thank you all for joining us today. I'm Michelle Johnson. I'm the event marketing specialist here at ProcessMaker. During today's webinar, we'll be discussing automating the transfer credit process at your school. Credit transfer is not a new problem, but the current pandemic has given the search for solutions a new urgency. Let's discuss the right strategies to help correct the problem. Today is the day to reimagine an electronic transfer credit evaluation process. So today, our presenter is Joy Youngman, product manager of our higher education division. Joy has over 25 years of experience working in higher education. She has worked directly in an institutional setting during enrollment and admissions operations, financial aid, and in IT enterprise applications. She has worked indirectly with hundreds of financial institutions while working for data integration, document management, and workflow automate vendors who serve higher education customers just like you. She joined ProcessMaker in March of this year to bring packaged automation solutions to higher education, and one example we'll explore today. Here you go, Joy. Thanks again for holding this webinar today.
Thanks, Michelle. Good morning, everyone. So what we're going to talk about today is, transforming a process that requires forms, workflows, approvals, emails, and more into a repeatable, measurable process that can significantly improve the experience for your students and your faculty and staff. So briefly, I'm going to talk about ProcessMaker, who we are and what we do, and then we'll talk a little bit about the digital transformation model that EDUCAUSE is talking about these days, expectations of today's transfer students and our geographically diverse workforce. We'll talk about transforming the transfer credit evaluation process into an electronic, digitalized process, and then we'll wrap up with some additional information about our platform and how it's used in hundreds of institutions and hundreds of processes across multiple departments. So ProcessMaker was founded in 2000 as an open source utility. In 2011, we had our first major university deploy. And in 2019, we partnered with Ellucian to bring Ellucian Workflow, which is powered by ProcessMaker. I know we have a few Ellucian customers today, and just know that our platform is the Ellucian Workflow platform. So by 2022, we now have almost 270 institutions using our platform on virtually every major SIS that's in the market. In 2021, we raised funding to continue investing in process automation for higher ed and community banking. So those are the two areas that we specialize in. And I like this. When I joined ProcessMaker and I saw our mission and vision and purpose, it really spoke to me. And my guess is that this might speak to you too. I mean, that's why you're here today watching this webinar. So welcome, change makers. We summarize our mission, vision, and purpose in one statement that ProcessMaker is enabling change makers, that's us, that's you, to build and automate complex enterprise level processes in order to make every second count. And the platform that we bring to market is a digital process management platform. And it allows you to design and document any automated digital process for any department or any system. And it's known in the market as what's called low code or no code platform, so that really you users can build compelling user experience with online forms, screens, data entry screens. You can capture approvals by email and much more that cross multiple systems and multiple people in various departments around your campus. And because the platform actually, so you build and you draw out the process, but it actually performs the tasks, it allows you to convert processes from offline manual processes to online, automated, and fully auditable processes. So EDUCAUSE has been talking in depth and very often about digital transformation, or DX. And in 2020, I think the pandemic forced many of us in higher education, I was working at an institution at the time, to move to providing services fully remote. So for many of us, this meant taking forms that were maybe paper, or they might have been a PDF form that was on a website, and really converting them very quickly to make them into fillable forms or a Google form. The institution I was at, we moved a few of them to Workday, but many of them we moved to Qualtrics. But the forms still had to be emailed around for approvals, or someone had to go in and pull the data out of the Google form, or go into Qualtrics and pull it down on a periodic basis. Often we had to rely on our people, our staff, remembering to follow all the approval steps, or remember to send someone else the reminders to finish a process. And I would kind of call that this first area, I would call that digitization, right? It's changing from an analog or physical paper form and putting it online. Maybe you took it one step further and made it in a form that actually captured the data and organized it a little bit in a Google Sheet or a spreadsheet or something like that you could download. But really the next step in this maturity model, if you will, this continuum of moving towards digital transformation, is to transform the operations. It's to put true automation behind those forms, behind those processes, so that it's streamlined, it's documented, every step is followed, it can be audited so that every transaction conforms to the process and that it complies with the requirements of the process. So having a platform and a strategy to automate and transform more and more of those processes is how you kind of move into digital transformation in the way that I think of it and what we're going to talk about here today. So what we do, again, that we enable change makers like you to build and automate complex enterprise level processes in order to make every second count. And for your transfer students, every second does count. They have lived for decades in a digital world. They have expectations of immediate feedback from their requests. They are likely uploading transcripts, or they're ordering them through the clearinghouse and having them sent to you electronically. And they expect response times from you similar to what they've received from other vendors that are sending those transcripts to you. I would say that admissions decisions, maybe financial aid awards, if it's depending on a student having a certain number of credits that gives them a higher amount of loans or awards that they could use to pay for tuition, and especially registration, right? They might be having to wait for a transfer credit evaluation before they can actually register for the course if they want, because that maybe the course that they're transferring in is a prerequisite. So all of those things may depend on the outcome and the time it takes to do these transfer credit processes, and it can cause delays for both your new incoming students and your returning students. And then I read an article recently that just came out from ACRO. There's a kind of a new concept of what they called a swirling transfer student. I thought that was interesting because they kind of move in and out of your institution, bringing transfer maybe every semester if they go home and they take courses at a local community college, and then they transfer that back in. So that means more and more evaluations that your staff are going to have to perform, which causes more delays in the amount of time that it takes. So we had a customer that built a transfer credit process for themselves on our platform. And this is what they had to say about it. Their old process could take months sometimes. Students would have a hard time meeting with faculty because they required faculty to review courses and make decisions on evaluations or transfer equivalencies. So students would have a hard time meeting with faculty, especially over summer break, and faculty would have long lines of students waiting for them to sign off on equivalence. But after digitizing it and putting it in ProcessMaker, the typical turnaround time for the faculty to review a course and make an equivalency determination was the same day that it was sent to them. And then they chose to update students' records weekly, but we have the ability to automate that and actually make the update right in real time as well, if that's something that your systems are capable of. So let's talk about it. I spoke to institutions this week that are still kind of working through analog processes, manual, kind of tedious processes. And I would say what I observed at the institutions that I worked at over the last 10 years, we might have moved from like writing equivalencies out and keeping track of them by hand on paper. If you had a document management system that you've implemented, maybe you were using annotations in the document management system to write on the transcript what the equivalency was, and that can be very tedious. Sometimes maybe you were entering them into a spreadsheet that's kept on someone's desk or in a network share, and then maybe they're routed around by email to get someone's signature, and they're just kind of putting a picture of a signature on those things to give approvals. And what we're talking about doing is moving all of those actions and putting it into a platform where everything is contained within the platform. All the forms are contained within the platform, all the automations, all the rules for routing, all the rules for equivalencies are in a single system. And everything is audit. You can see here in this picture, everything is, screenshot, everything is time stamped at every step of the process. Okay, so that you have a record of the decisions that were made for that particular evaluation in case you ever have to go back or if there's an appeal. So let's go see it. Let's take a look at what it's going to look like in our platform. So I am going to, I will have signed in and I'm going to start the demo today as if I am a transcript or a transfer evaluator at an institution. I might work in the records office or the registrar's office. And my job and my duty every day is to work in this environment. So they would log into the platform to perform work. And this is a dashboard that we can create to have a single place for them to come in and kind of get a bird's eye view of what work is out there, what transcripts are out there to be reviewed. And so this user experience that you see here is fully customizable to your institution's branding, your colors, your logo. And we've created some what we call quick action items here in these buttons based on this user's role. So kind of up here at the breadcrumbs, we can kind of see that we're in the equivalency system. Maybe this person performs equivalencies, transfer credit evaluations, but also might have other processes in the ProcessMaker platform that they do. So there's some controls to go back out and look for other dashboards. But for today, we're just going to show the transfer credit evaluation. So this user is going to be performing tasks like starting a new evaluation or configuring who the approvers are for course equivalencies, or even the ability to go to a dashboard and see all evaluations over all time and get some metrics for that. The next section here below here is called recent evaluations. This is a quick view on this workspace that shows the most recent evaluations that have been added to the system. So we can see the data that's displayed here is also configurable, but we can see the different students and the status for each of the evaluations. And so these columns are configurable. They're intended to give a quick overview of how many courses are being evaluated and their current status, but you can search, search by student name or by an institution name. And if you've configured the system to show other values, like maybe an entrance term or an admission status or a class level, any other value, you can sort and filter on these columns so that you can prioritize work in this workspace. Let's go ahead and scroll down to a couple other sections that we've got on this dashboard. On the bottom left, we've got a place for approvers, and we've also got a quick view into the equivalencies table. These sections really offer us just a preview into the data that's kind of stored behind the scenes in the modules. And like that module above, they can be searched. The data that is displayed in the in the view is configurable. And in this case, we're displaying recently added records. So recently added approvers or recently added equivalency records. So in the demo that I'm going to give to you today, the approvers is various faculty members in an academic department. You might do all of the decisions for approvals for equivalencies within your registrar's office, and maybe they're distributed in alphabetically by institution name or alphabetically by student name, whatever it is. Those things could also, those rules could be used here instead of faculty approvers. But I'm gonna just demo today based on faculty are in a department are doing approvals. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at the approvers. So I'm going to click manage approvers and I go into the table. So here you can see another view. You can search again, just like before. You can configure data elements that you've stored. You can add new records. You can also edit records. You can delete them. You can view the data that's in here. This is all controlled by user permissions in the system. So again, like I said, the approvers in this demo example are faculty who work in the various academic departments. They perform course evaluations and make equivalency determinations. You can also, so we've got a few here for a few subjects. You can import them, you can add them manually, but you can also import them from spreadsheets or databases via a CSV file, which is really easy. But we also can connect to any system that has APIs available. So if an API is available in whatever host application you want, you can connect to that, or we can take and do CSV imports as well. So let's go ahead and go back to our dashboard and let's take a look at the equivalencies table. So I'm going to click manage equivalencies. So just like for the approvers module that we just looked at, users can search. The columns and the data that's saved and displayed here are configurable. Records can be added manually. They can be imported via, doing a CSV import or configuring an API to connect to a system. CSV works as expected in any other system. You browse to a local or a network file and then you import it. All right, so back on our dashboard and starting at the top, again, we're going to see those quick action buttons that allow us to do things instead of having to actually scroll down and find things. So we can enter those modules from the top of the dashboard or down in each individual section. So let's kind of, for demo purposes, let's just say that this morning, a continuing student dropped by our office with their official transcript from another institution in an envelope. They attended there during summer break and they've brought it to the office. So let's go ahead and choose the start new evaluation. So in this view, we can see that a case was created. We can see that the overall status of the process, there's a process status bar at the top. We're at the receive transcript step. Now, I want you to keep in mind that I'm using an example today of a student bringing a transcript to the front desk in your office, but this process can be initiated in many different ways. Transcripts are likely received by your admissions or records office in a mailroom, right? Where they're opening the mail that came in, transcripts are being sent via mail. Hopefully that's less than it used to be, but I suspect that that's still happening quite a bit. They get scanned maybe into a document management system or a CRM system. You may also be receiving electronic transcripts from the various transcript providers. They might come as a PDF. They might come as a PDF with XML attached. They might come as raw XML or EDI into your systems, either CRM or a document management system that might be received, or your SIS that might be receiving it digitally. So the system can import and start this evaluation process from a CSV that comes out of your CRM. It could come from an API from your CRM or your document management system. We have the ability to create what are called webhooks, where a system or a platform that receives an email or generates an email to a webhook that notifies our system that a transcript has been received. There's a number of ways that we can actually remove this manual step, but sometimes they show up at the front desk and you got to start it off manually. Okay. So, but for the sake of this demo, we're gonna import one manually to kick it off. So you also see over here on the right-hand side that there's some other details about the system. Remember, I said that we were logging every single step. We can see which evaluator it's been assigned to. We can see who initiated the request. And I can also reassign this to someone else. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click select file here. And I'm going to import this transcript, right, from my local device. It could be from a scanner. It could be in a network location, wherever I can pick that transcript up from my computer. And then once it's selected here, then I can add any comments and then I can click submit. So the next thing that happens, depending on who you want, you might want to have the front desk person go ahead and scan that into the system and kick off the notification. But what I did want to show you is up in the upper right-hand corner, we do have a notifications that tells me that I have a task to do in the system. And here in this platform, for me as a transcript for a credit evaluator, I can see that I have a task that's to review, the transfer credit. I can enter this task from my to-do tasks, or I can go to the dashboard. So let's just go to the dashboard. Let's say that I'm a transfer credit evaluator and my front desk staff had initiated. So that I wasn't the person sitting at the front desk taking the transcript, someone else was. So now I have a notification on my dashboard up here in the top right corner that I have a new evaluation. And because I've configured the system down here in the recent evaluations, I can see that I have a new transcript into my queue. So from here, I can go ahead and click on it to open it. So now I can see that we're past the received transcript. We're at the confirm courses step in the overall process. We have several options for automation here. You could have intelligent document capture that could scan the transcript using intelligent optical character recognition and artificial intelligence that can extract the data and place it into the form. You might receive transcript data from like the Speedy server at the National Clearinghouse or from Parchment via EDI or XML that could automatically populate the form. Or maybe you have a student or staff whose sole responsibility it is to just transcribe the data from the image. I would assert that having a platform and having an automation, even with some manual data entry, is still an incredible improvement over doing things manually and in systems that's in someone's head. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what this might look like. So if you were to use intelligent document capture, OCR, and artificial intelligence, right? You could have it scan the transcript and put all the data into the form automatically, right? But you would probably still want to validate that to make sure that it's correct by having a person validate it. And that's what this step is for. So in this, I would be validating that this is correct. I have the ability to add a course if something was missed. I have the ability to edit something if it's incorrect. I can remove something if I don't want it to be sent through for equivalency. All right. So you have those options here on this screen, and you can click the submit and move on to the next step in the process. I'm going to go ahead and show you what it's like if you were to manually transcribe these. So you would click add, and you can have drop down lists if we can bring that in through some sort of an import, or if you have an API that can pull from your data and populate the lists so that it's always fresh. But regardless, you have an interface here. So back a few slides, we talked about this step. Maybe you have users that are transcribing courses off of transcripts. Years ago, it was by hand. Maybe it's on spreadsheets today. In a platform like this, instead of in a spreadsheet, it has this data entry form that really powers the rest of the process. It's going to have full record keeping, full versioning, full audit trails, and better than transcribing it into a spreadsheet that might just be saved on somebody's local machine or in a network drive. So every step in this process is recorded, it's time-stamped. I'm going to demonstrate this automation admittedly today with some manual steps here, but still this is much better than total manual processing outside a platform like this. Keep in mind that automation is on that spectrum, right? This particular step on the solution is one area where we can have that maturity spectrum. Maybe we start with a data entry form, and instead of doing data entry into spreadsheets, you're doing data entry into the platform. Maybe we go ahead and add some automation, like you only do data entry for the physical transcripts, and anything that's XML or EDI, those are automatically uploaded. Or maybe we get to a point where we have full intelligent document capture, it's scanned in and it's placed into the form, right? But you have an option for improving your process today and growing to something that is more and more automated over time, right? Like the ultimate goal would for this to be a fully hands-free transcription. All right, so once all the courses are transcribed in the form, we're going to go ahead and click OK. So now that is submitted, that confirmation or confirm courses step is done. That could be handled by a staff person in your office. Maybe it could be handled by student workers or by a staff person that their responsibility is just to do the transcription. And as a credit evaluator, now I can see that that transcript or that credit evaluation is in progress now. It's no longer new, it's in progress. So let's go ahead and click on it again. So now I can see that instead of being at the confirm step, I'm now at the match courses step. And if we scroll down, I can actually see that some of these courses are were automatically matched. So those courses were in our rules table and they automatically matched, but a couple of them are pending. And so the next step would be probably to have someone in the office research or some automation, research and find those course descriptions before sending it off to make an equivalency determination. So again, thinking about the spectrum, in this particular step, maybe the transfer credit evaluator is doing this, but maybe it's a staff person or a student, right? That their job is to do the research and find the course description on the school's website or in a third-party system and provide the URL to kind of document that where that course description came from. So I'm going to scroll down. We can put areas here where you can put in, copy and paste the course description, the URL. An enhancement of this, right, or an extension would be if you have a subscription to something like the College Source, and you have a subscription to their API, then we can really do some automation. So behind the scenes, before this step even goes to a person, it can take the information transcribed off that transcript and actually do the lookup from College Source and provide the course description back to you. So that's another step on that automation spectrum that you could add into a process like this so that it really becomes closer to hands-free. So once we've captured the course description, whether that comes from an API with College Source or it's something that someone in your office has done the research to capture the course description, then we go ahead and submit this routing to the next step. So you'll recall from our dashboard that we had designated faculty department approvers in our example. So this course, biology, is Cassandra McFadden. In the routing step, keep in mind that all courses that need evaluation, we saw that there were two courses, one in the math department, one in the biology department. They can be routed, they're not routed sequentially, they're routed in what we call parallel. So they're going at the same time. One's going to the math department, one's going to the biology department. All right, so faculty might be casual or infrequent users of our platform. So one of the features that we can do, so in every example until now, we've gotten in-application notifications because we're a transfer credit evaluator. We're in this system every day, all day. But faculty who are doing approvals might not be frequent users. They might not want to log into the system. You might not want to give them a user account, okay, that they have to know how to go and log in. So they would be better served to receive an email notification. And instead of being expected to log into the system and look to see, be proactive to see, hey, do I have any evaluations to do today? You can choose to have them notified via email. So all of that's configured during the setup of the system at your institution. So in this example, our faculty don't need to log into the platform. They just need to click on the link. And if you are using single sign-on, we can have the system sign that faculty member in. They don't even know that it's happened. It's just kind of happening in the background so that they can take action. If you don't have single sign-on, then they might have to log in if you want to capture that they did it, but at least they would get the email telling them, hey, you have something, instead of them having to be proactive and go in and look. Another thing to keep in mind here on the emails, everything that it says is completely configurable by a user. And another thing to keep in mind is we can send emails for the initial, but we can also set the emails to be on a timer so that if the transaction, if the task has not been completed in like 2 days, send another email, send another reminder to give those nudges to the user. I've worked with faculty a long time, they're out on, they're out on leave, they're out for the summer. They might be doing this type of work, but they're not looking at their email every day. They're not logging into a system to look to see if they have work every day. So that reminders and those nudges is a very, very convenient, very useful feature of the platform, and not something you have in a system where you're doing it yourself in spreadsheets and on a network drive, right? So here we can see that this was the email sent to Cassandra McFerrin in the biology department. She clicks view course, it logs her in, and she now has a form, okay? On this form, it's showing her the description from what we call the external course. They're not displayed, well, actually, let me back up here. You can see here, they're not displayed any student information. They don't know who this is for. They only know that it's an equivalency coming from Newcastle and University for a biology course, right? So they have the information to make the decision. They have fields on the right-hand side that they fill out. And again, if we can load in the subject line, we can select a course, and then it can populate the information from our own rules tables, okay? Once they make a determination for what is the equivalent course at our institution. You can also give them the option to say that there's no equivalency, okay? So they drop down, it populates, and then they go ahead and submit it. So as an evaluator, I'm monitoring things coming in and out of the system. I can still see that Joan, her status is still in progress, and I may or may not check the status of all of these, but maybe I got a phone call from the admissions office. Hey, what's the status of Joan's transcript? So I go into my dashboard, I search, I find Joan's evaluation, it's still in progress. Let me go in here and take a look, all right? So I can see this time that the biology course has been evaluated by the reviewer, but the mathematics course is still pending, right? So I'm going to go, let's go be the mathematics course. So the same thing happens with the faculty member. They got the email, they come in here, they choose a math course. One thing that I do want to show here is in the case that you need to match a single course to multiple courses, you can choose the add record. So that gives you the option to take, like, probably would have been better to show it on the biology, but if the biology, a 4 credit hour biology course was coming in, it might be equivalent to a 3-hour lecture, biology lecture with a 1-hour lab, right? So you do have the ability to add multiple records in the case that you're going to take one course and equate it to multiple courses at your institution. All right, so now once that has been submitted and I go back in now and look at Joan's record, I can see that all of those courses have now been reviewed. Okay. And they've either been automatically matched from rules that were already in the system when we first submitted it to the match process, or during that match process, they were sent in parallel to the faculty. They've both made a decision, and now we can see that everything has been equated. And so what I'm showing you here is something that happened behind the scenes. We didn't, as an evaluator, have to do anything, and the faculty didn't have to do anything. But what happened behind the scenes, and this is configurable, and I think this is very helpful, is that once those determinations for equivalency were made, we had the system automatically add them to our equivalency table so that the next time those courses are submitted from that institution, they'll do auto match and they don't have to be submitted for review again. So over time, you're building a robust equivalency table within the platform, right? That's going to make the whole process more and more automated over time. All right. So a final feature that I'd like to share with you on our platform is the ability for our system to produce PDF documents of things that have happened in this process that can be sent to admissions as part of the process. It could be emailed to the student as part of the process. It can be exported out to a document management system for saving. It can be exported out to a CRM. If we can send them to SFTP sites, we can send them to via an API out to another system. So we can actually generate and produce a document and then send it to wherever it needs to go. It might need to go to all those places. The institution I worked at, we would want an email to go to the admissions counselor. We want an email to send it to the student. We want it saved in our document management system, and they'd also want it saved in their CRM. And we have the ability to make all those connections and do that in an automated way through our platform. Okay. You could also, a nice feature within our platform is you could produce this not as a PDF, but you could produce it as an HTML page through our screen functionality. It's the same place that you would build a form, but instead of asking for information, you're going to be giving information out to the user, and that can also be pasted on a portal, like a student portal, so that they can see their transcript evaluation that way. So instead of sending them via email a PDF, you could actually post it to a portal. So there are a variety of ways to distribute this report that we can generate out into your campus and out to your users, out to your students, as you want to do that for your institution. So now let's go back to that dashboard one last time. We can now see that the student's record status has changed to completed. And the whole process is done at this point. And we always can go back and reference that. Let's say that there was courses that were in progress, right? You're going to get another transcript at time. This is going to keep a status of every case that was submitted by every new receipt of a transcript, so that you have the opportunity to add new courses the next time you have the opportunity to look them up. So we can also add some automation that does a lookup to see if a particular student had submitted a transcript before, so that you have those cases available to you in the process as well. So that's a wrap for the demo of today's for our transfer process. I do kind of want to go back and show you just a couple of things. Let's revisit the digital transformation, right? So oh my goodness, I just got tongue-tied. I did good up until this point. Digitization, I would say, is, moving from transcribing those courses by hand in a form into spreadsheets and saving them onto network drives. That was starting to get digitized, right? The transcripts are sent over as a PDF instead of, in the institution I was at, we'd get those corrugated mail bins, right? And they'd have the folders, and So digitization is kind of moving to a document management system, moving to a CRM that has those digitally, starting to organize that information a little bit. Digitalization would be using something like our platform to start doing like automatic matching, looking it up, automatic routing, having those email notifications, updating the rules engines, creating those knowledge bases. That is really what I would call digitalization of the transfer credit process, right? That's automating it, it's streamlining it, making it go much faster. But doing a true digital transformation of it is adding extensions. So we can extend it, add more automation by integrating to your various systems via API, right? Automatically going back and populating your host applications like your SIS or your ERP or CRMs, your document management systems, using single sign-on, using third-party applications to do course description search, and then really getting fancy, adding intelligent document processing and process analytics via dashboards here. So that would be making a true digital transformation for this one process. All right. However, well, actually, before we do that, I kind of, one thing that we didn't show here today, and if you're interested in taking a deeper dive and kind of looking under the hood, I'm going to give you a glimpse. But this is a screenshot of our process designer, okay? And this is where it allows you to kind of think about step by step. It's a swim lane diagram. If you've seen these before, this is written in what they call BPMN, which is business process modeling and notation. You draw it out, it's conforming. So if you're familiar with how that, you can easily read it. I know it might be too small here, but if you understand that, you know, what the tasks look like, what a start event looks like, but you can build this, you can show that the student is doing actions, the admissions office is doing actions, the registrar's office is doing actions, and the faculty are doing actions, right? This is how you would draw this out. And what you might think, okay, well, this looks, well, at least I did, this was my initial experience. Well, that looks like Visio, Microsoft Visio. That looks like something like Lucid Chart, right? And it does work that way. You draw out your process. But what the platform does is behind every one of those tasks, you actually configure it over here on the right-hand side to do the task. So if the task is to send an email, you configure it right here. If the task is to use an API, it's configured right here. So everything that you're drawing out and documenting your process is then all the actions to do the automation is built right here as well. And what's really nice, one of the things that you can do, and I know it's super hard to see it, but right here is a button that's called download BPMN. And you can also export this as a PDF. And now you've got full documentation of your process, full documentation of the entire process that you can hand to your audit staff, that you can go back and say, what is our process? Well, it's all fully documented right here within the platform itself. All right. One last thing that I want to show, and then we'll go to question and answers. I put this together, and again, I know it's very hard to read. You don't have to read it. I can send this out if you're interested. I can send this out to you, and I probably will send it to everyone along with the recording. But this is, I went through and took a look at all the processes that our current customers are using in their production environments today. And this is a 2-slide, it's a 2-page front and back document that goes through admissions, financial aid, academic affairs, registration and records, student affairs, student accounts, facilities management, information technology and security, finance and accounting, human resources, and all kinds of other custom programs like grants and foundations and applications for various custom programs that an institution has. These are things that are built on our process automation platform by our customers today. So I showed you transfer credit evaluation, super helpful to automate, but keep in mind that our platform is capable of so many things. And really it's your imagination as to what kinds of things you might be able to build and automate on a platform like ours. And so in registration and records, yes, there's transfer credit, but start thinking about your veterans processes, your veteran certifications, and all the forms and processes that you have to do to certify them. So these are all things that you can do on a platform such as ProcessMaker. So that's going to be the conclusion of my presentation. We have about 10, 15 minutes to do some questions. So I'm going to turn it over and let's see what we've got. So I do see here that we have a question like, all the processes in this catalog, are they available in a store? We have a subset of them that we are starting to build what I would call templates. And so as we get those built out, then we have the ability to put them in a bundle and make them available to you. But most of these, keep in mind, these have been built by customers already. So I think it's just a matter of learning what you need to know. We can offer services too. So like if you just wanted a single process, we can certainly help you with services to build that process, or we can do things like have our professional services work with you and coach you through building it yourself so that you can build many, many more as well. But yes, we are working towards having kind of a certain subset of these, not all of them, but a subset of the most frequently used as to come in certain bundles if we sell them to a particular department. Let's see, what else do we have here? Any other questions? I'm going to leave it open to see if anybody has other questions today. But one of the things I would like to say, oh, here we go. The list of decisions received that helps build the equivalency tables. Can a process be automated to initiate a regular review of decisions? So we require review every 5 years. So again, it might not be in our initial launch, but because you can build a review process in, you could set a timer that goes out to that table and takes all the evaluations and then creates a display form. You could have it create a screen that goes out maybe by academic department or whomever you wanted to route it to, right? You can determine how the routing of that is. But yes, you could build a process that every 5 years takes all the decisions that were made. You create a screen or a form that has, check or approvals, and you could absolutely create a process within the platform to do that as well. Let's see. You mentioned an equivalency table. Is this table in your system, or is this an equivalency table in our SIS? It can be either way. So if your SIS has your equivalency tables, we can pull them in. I mean, we are going to use it for our purposes in our platform, but what you could do is have it automatically refreshed from your SIS, or if your SIS can expose that data as an API, we can always, instead of storing in our system, we can always just pull it right from your system live so that it's always fresh. Another thing, I have seen a lot of institutions that might not be keeping their equivalencies in the SIS, they're keeping them in spreadsheets. So if you have those in spreadsheets, we can absolutely import them into our tables so that you have, something in a tabled system that you can use for automatic routing and decision purposes.
Looks like a couple of questions came through in the chat box.
Sure. So let's see. So I got some here. Course equivalencies are saved as you evaluate a transcript. Is there a way to not save an equivalency? Sometimes a chairperson will only want to equate the course for that specific student. So one thing that you could, if you do allow exceptions We can build that into a process that if there's an exception or a one time, you can add that to the little screen that the faculty would be doing. They say that this is a one-time equivalency, and then you would build that rule for the update to your tables that if it's a one-time equivalency, don't add it to the tables, right? So you can have conditional rules built into the system for how it behaves. Let's see here. Was I using a collection as the base for the initial dashboard that you displayed? Let's see. So a collection, are you talking about importing prior equivalencies that had been done in the past before you started the system, or can you give me a little more information on that, Sarah? And I will be happy to answer that question. We'll move on to the next one and then come back to you. Let's see. So will it allow you to do a preliminary evaluation based of an unofficial transcript? So the great thing about our platform is it can be anything. So if you're at your institution, you do preliminary evaluations on unofficial transcripts, we could add a data element that would say this is an unofficial transcript, this is a preliminary evaluation, and you could in fact have a completely different routing process for that based on that. You could also use pieces of the evaluation. So maybe if an unofficial evaluation is done solely in your records office or your registrar's office and doesn't go out to faculty, you could potentially, you could have different rules for the routing. So yes, you could do preliminary evaluations. And in the report that's generated, you could also have it, say on there that this was this was a preliminary evaluation unofficially. You could put it in big, you could put a watermark on it or something that makes it very clear that that's what you were doing. So you have the ability to write those in. That would be something that that we would do as part of your implementation. And let's see here. So the question is, do you happen to know any specific SISs and CRMs that ProcessMaker has been integrated with? So we have hundreds of schools integrated with Banner. We are the Ellucian workflow. We use Ethos to do integrations back to Banner. And so, yes, we can absolutely integrate to Banner. We're not system specific. So as long as your institution or as long as your SIS has APIs, so I'll give you an example. Slate has lots of APIs. We may not have done a specific implementation. We might, I can't tell exactly where the integration points are with our customers, but we have lots of customers that are non-Ellucian. We have customers that are on PeopleSoft. We have customers that are on Gensbayer. So as long as the application that you need to integrate with has the ability to either export out via a CSV file that we could then import, or if they can provide and expose the data that you need to query as an API, we can easily integrate with those systems. We have, so outside of higher ed, and I don't have the ability to show this, but we have millions of customers on our open source that use APIs. We have integrations to DocuSign, Adobe Sign, Jira. We have integrations to big commercial applications, and they're not custom built. They're just the capabilities of our platform allows us to connect very easily via API to those systems. All right. I saw the list of approvers was stored in a collection. Okay, were the dashboard elements pulling from additional collections? So wherever you have information that we can import, we can pull into a collection for you to use. So you can either build it from zero in our system, or you can import it from somewhere else. Sarah, I hope that answers the question. So Oh, and another thing too, so the data that we store, so like some of the metadata that we store about the log files and things like that, that's also considered a collection in ProcessMaker. So if you saw the label collection, we use that concept inside ProcessMaker itself. So for example, the approvers, when we import it in, ProcessMaker creates a collection, what it calls a collection inside our platform, and then all that data is stored in that collection. So that would be the approvers collection, it would be the equivalencies collection, it might be the various logging of the steps and things like that. That would be other collections that have data elements stored in them. You're welcome. So I think that does it. What I would like to invite everyone to do is we're going to send out the recording, and we will, I'll make sure that I send out the higher education process menu so that you can kind of get your creative juices flowing about the types of things that you could do on our platform. If any of you would like to take a look under the hood and see kind of the administration of our platform, I encourage you to let us know, and you can go on our website and request a demo, and we would be happy to do that. So thank you very much. I'm going to turn it back over to Michelle to kind of wrap us up. I thank you for your time. Thank you for your wonderful questions. I hope that you saw something that piques your interest today. You all have a great weekend. Thank you so much.
Joy, that was great. Thank you so much. I'm sure everybody here appreciates all your information regarding the transfer credit process. And thank you everybody for connecting with us today and taking time out of your busy schedules. We hope you'll join us again in June for our next webinar. We'll be sending out invites in the upcoming weeks. Thanks so much again, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.